Thanks so much for making the time. I know the weather has not been friendly, which doesn't make for, joining any call, but so I really appreciate you guys making the time. So I'm just as we wait for the other people, I'm just going to introduce EmpowerWiz. And basically, EmpowerWiz is an initiative that focuses on giving every child a voice. We do this through mentorship. We do it through team building, fun, and games. And usually the point is to get a child basically to find their voice, or if they have their voice, to use their voice. So literally and not literally. So by a child, maybe unraveling a child and allowing them to be the person that they're meant to be is just basically them finding their voice. So in terms of how we do our sessions or how we interact with kids, about 3% is formal learning. 10% is usually about sports, and about 35% is team building, sports, talent. And we do physical activities, 62%. So the goal is to teach children life skills, everything they don't get taught in school. So you're thinking how to communicate, how to self-love, self-image, self-esteem, self-discovery in all ways, being confident, their mental wellness, how to share with others, bullying, how to prevent being bullied, personal grooming, hygiene. So anything that, the kids maybe don't get taught in conventional school is what we teach kids. All our interactions with kids are currently physical. We haven't managed to go online yet. So basically all our interactions are physical. We work with kids during the holidays, and we do 2-year ranges. So if we're doing 5-year-olds, we do 5 to 7, or let's say 5 to 8. Then we might do 8 to 10, 12 to 14, 14 to 16. We also do one-on-one sessions for children who are struggling with specific things. So it could be a child who's been bullied. It could be a child who's struggling with time management, confidence, public speaking. So we work with the child, especially the older ones, on specific things that they're struggling or need to improve. And so in working with these kids, we have to partner with parents. So we rely on parents to let us know how to help their children. But today we're going to be talking about learning, and we'll explore it further. How best do children learn? And that's basically why in EmpowerWiz, we use games and fun and playing. That's how kids learn best. So we're very big on connecting with the child and what we call experiential learning. So what we do is we usually work with the parents, and they guide us on the topics that they would want covered. These webinars are monthly. Usually within that month, like this month, we've covered learning in and out of class. And through the chair, how much on a child? Not sure. Happiness. Do you want to clarify what your question is? But I'm sure, I'm guessing you're asking, how much the charge is. It depends on the activity. So I'll tell you, the last activity we did in December, we did a baking activity. So what we did for that, the kids all paid 300 shillings, and then everybody got to bring their ingredients. So it depends on the activity pretty much. If we're going to go to the park, like we've gone to Arboretum, then we take care of the entrance charges, my staff, snacks. Sometimes we include lunch. So it all depends on the activity. But for most of our events, we've never charged we charge anything between 1,300, 1,000, 1,500. So it's affordable. And to be honest, EmpowerWiz is not about making money. It's about empowering kids. That's why I'm a full-time banker still. So Happiness, I hope that answers your question. And so for the kids to be able to basically learn, okay, Karibu. We rely on the parents, and this is why we have these webinars. If you haven't, please follow us on our socials. We post a lot of content there, and we post the topic for the month, which culminates into this webinar at the last Thursday, on the last Thursday of the month. So every month we cover a topic. So you'll see it on WhatsApp, you'll see it Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So you'll see this content and then it culminates into this webinar. Now, this webinar, we do it online because our interaction is with parents. And our goal is to have a conversation and get to understand where we are as parents, because I'm a parent too. I have 4 children. Where are we as parents and how can we parent better to help our kids find their voices? So I think we have quite a few of us. I think we're about 10. Yeah. And oh yes. So today we're going to have an interactive session. Please click on the link. Stacy has posted it so that you can join our community. Stacy, is it in the group? Stacy, I'll give you okay, thank you. So Stacy has posted a community where we're going to post an interactive chat that is going to really guide this conversation and allow us to interact as parents. So we have very young parents here, like Michael, Baba Brielle. And then we have older parents like myself. Yeah, my firstborn is 26. And then we have the in-betweens like Mercy, who are, their kids are right there in the middle. So they're in the fun part. Yes, I think happiness, like time management, it doesn't matter what skill we're teaching. Usually it's just what activity we are teaching. So because we learn through activities. So we do sports activities, we play football, basketball, we go swimming. So it depends on what activity we're doing. Stella, karibu sana. Good to see you. So if you'll allow me, I'm just going to delve into the topic. And then just as we are starting, we will have our first, Stacy, you can get ready to post the first interactive question, but maybe give them a minute to join. Hi, Jacinta, karibu sana. Admit her. Karibu, Jacinta. So I'm just going to go through a few quotes that you'll resonate with. This one is anonymous. The world is a classroom and every experience is a lesson. And maybe sometimes I think we were conditioned to think that learning ended at school. So if you remember when you cleared class 8 and you're like, yes, I've finished school, I'm done. And then came high school. And then again, when you're in high school, you're like, I just want to do my KCSE so I can finish mambo ya shule. I'll go to campus and have fun. You went to campus, there was still some learning. And now what we realize today, and especially me as a parent who's parenting Gen Zs, I now realize learning is actually a lifelong experience. It doesn't stop. Yeah. So let's embrace the fact that at any point, so long as we're alive, learning is going to happen. And through that, then we can be vulnerable and support our kids in their learning journey. The other one is, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. That's by Benjamin Franklin. Yeah. You'll notice even a 1-year-old who's trying to feed themselves, sometimes you have to be there in front of her or him with your food. And as you lift your spoon, they look at you and that's how they learn. So when we involve children, they learn best. So kids learn best when they're engaged, when they're having fun, and when they're actively participating in the learning process. And of course, now we all know with CBC, that's what's happening. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we've actually realized that kids are not going to learn the way we learned, and everything is changing to include new ways of learning. So by definition, learning is just acquisition of knowledge or skills through study, which was majorly how we learned, experience, or being taught. And that means being shown or being put through a certain experience or being placed in situations. You actually learn whichever way you think about it. And we now in our later lives, we've learned that everything we went through, the difficult things, the not so difficult, the easy things, all of them actually taught us something. And in the moment, you might not realize what you're teaching or what you're learning. But even as parents, as you're parenting your children, when your child is crying and screaming, you're actually learning how to be patient. You're learning how to be a better parent. So learning doesn't stop. Now, a few statistics here. 90% of a child's brain develops by age 5. So between 0 and 5, actually when a child is born, the brain is usually not fully developed. So between 0 and 5, the brain then develops. Now, when do children learn most or best? Between the ages of 2 and 7. And what do you notice about 2-year-olds to 7-year-olds? They ask a lot of questions. So as parents, what can we do better? When they're asking those questions, let's learn to answer them. And then a child is most influenced between the ages of 8 and 11 years. And by 14 years, everything you've taught your child, you're actually just going to see it in practice. So we as parents have between 0 and 14 to capture all these sort of when kids are like sparks for them to learn. After that, the chances are much less and the risk of learning not happening is much higher. So I'll welcome Stacy if you're ready to post the first interactive question so that we can just interact and see. I hope each of you have joined the community. Joy, karibu. Priscilla, karibu. Arike, that's you. Karibu sana. Damaris, karibu. Elizabeth, karibu. If we can all just scroll through in the chat and make sure we are, Stacey, just see how many have joined the community so that we can post the first interactive question. So Happiness, Eunice, Elizabeth, Damaris, Mercy, Michael, Jacinta, Priscilla, Rose, Stella. If you're not already a member, Wilma, of the community, please click the link. I hope all of you can access the chat. The link is to the community. If you cannot, please raise your hand. Stacy has posted it at 6:43. So if you just scroll in the chat. Okay, thank you, Happiness. Happiness is already a member. Elizabeth, have you been able to join? Joy? Mercy? Great. Thank you, Happiness. If you're not a member, please join. We don't want you to miss out on this interactive session. So please join. Ceci, how are we doing? If Karibu Sana, Jacinta, thank you. Let's all comment. If you're having a problem joining, we can help. Wilma, are you a member of the community? Michael?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Awesome. Michael? Rose? Vayo? Rolin? Arike, are you a member of the community? We're going to post. Thank you. Thank you. Well done, Elizabeth. Michael, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Joy?
Yes, I'm in.
Okay, Arike, you're in. That's it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Rose. Rose will join. So we're just waiting for a few people to join so they don't miss out on the questions. In case you have challenges, I will read the question. Just in case you have challenges. Okay, Stacy, you can post. Let us know once you've posted. Stacy, I'll have you post and then read it. Well, maybe you're not in a position to read it. So I'll read it. I'm just opening the questions. Okay, Stacy, you've posted? Is this thing not happening? Pass me my phone. Let me just check that it's been posted. Okay, Stacy has posted. So the first question is, which of the following, no, that's not the first question. The first one is, how often does your child engage in learning activities outside of school? So 2 people say a few times a week, others say once a week, and others say rarely. So, and this maybe speaks to, what do we consider as a learning activity outside school? If let's have 1, 2, 3 of us just give us examples of what's a learning activity outside school that your child engages in. You can put your hand up, or you can just unmute and speak. What's a learning activity that your child engages in? Given that, okay, a few of us have said rarely, 3 of us actually, 2 once a week, and 2 a few times a week. What do you consider a learning activity outside school? I'm going to invite any of you to speak. Stella, what's a learning activity outside school? Because we know that learning happens in school. That's why we send our kids to school. So what's a learning activity outside school? Stella, are you there? I don't know if Stella can hear me. Sarah, karibu sana.
Sister Mary, she's talking to me. Hello.
Stella, what's a learning activity outside school?
Can hear you. Hospitality.
Oh, Pole.
Which learning? What is your question?
What is an example of a learning activity outside school?
Oh, there's so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you cook with the kids in the kitchen, they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
When you play with them, hide and seek, they're learning on top. And those little things we do, lots of playing, there's so much. They go out riding, they're learning. There's so much happening. Actually, I think majority of the learning when they're young happens outside of school.
Wow. That's coming from a teacher. So interesting, because I think we've been conditioned to say, learning actually happens in school, and at home is where they come to eat, sleep, clean up, and basically get ready to go back to school. And as you know, they say education is the key to life. So most of us as parents, we are always geared on making sure our kids attend the best schools, because we think that's where most of the learning happens. But what Stella is telling us, actually a lot of learning happens outside school. Let's get another reaction. Even as you vote, I can see your votes. Thank you very much. The poll is looking like a few times a week, once a week. Others are saying rarely. Another reaction from someone? Jacinta, Joy, Elizabeth, Damaris, you want to say something? Just unmute. Sarah, Michael. What's an example, or what do you think about if you voted, a few times a week? What are you referring to? Are you maybe referring to a tutor that comes home and that tutor maybe helps the child do their homework? What is this that we think are learning activities outside school? I know some of us are a bit shy. Joy, go ahead.
Okay, some examples are the events organized by Empowerwiz.
Thank you very much. I love that. Specifically, events organized by Empowerwiz.
Yeah, they are very impactful. They never forget about what they've learned.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's why we were saying earlier, Joy, that we actually physically interact with all our kids, and we struggled during COVID, and we also do not have any more than 25 kids at any one time, because our thing is about connecting with the child and making sure that when they're leaving, they've actually learned something. Now, I think I'll just, I'll anchor this conversation around kids learning outside school on what Stella said. And I think as a teacher, she's experiencing firsthand the kids that she gets at school. Usually it's because of what they've learned at home. So what do kids learn at home? They're learning kindness. They're learning hygiene. They're learning how to interact with their peers. They're learning how to pray. They're learning how to eat, mannerfully. They're learning how to say magic words. They're learning when we come home, what's our routine? They're learning time management. Because I come from school, what do I have to do? If I wake up in the morning, what do I have to do? They're learning confidence. If they're sitting at the breakfast table, how do they get what they want? So they're learning how to interact with the house manager, requesting for what they want. All these interactions are actually learning. So outside school, and we'll cover this a bit later, outside school, there's actually a lot of learning happening where you're finding that even what the teacher is getting is a culmination of everything the child, it depends on the child, sports, reading, cooking, farming, all those are learning opportunities. So there is not one interaction you have with your child that they don't learn. Remember also, children are like sparks. So even how you talk to your spouse or how you interact on the phone, the child is learning. And some of you will attest. You hear your child sometimes on phone talking like you. They're like, hello. And it's because that's how they hear mommy answer their phone. Or, the boys might go, hello, because that's how they hear their father or their uncle answer the phone. So learning happens all year round, every day, everywhere. So we're going to go to the second question, which is, what types of learning activities do you find your child most excited about outside of the classroom? So some reading books, some have said playing educational games, doing hands-on experiments or projects, exploring hobbies or interests. So most kids and most parents, which is true, are most excited around exploring hobbies or interests. That's art, music, sports, and our latest one, surfing on the internet. Yeah. I know we don't have that as an option, but you could have it in playing educational games, because how do we use technology in a constructive way for our kids to learn, as opposed to saying, you're not getting your gadgets because I need you to learn. But then you have places like in the US, the kids learn on the computer. There are no textbooks. So how are you going to get the child to learn how to manage their emotions, especially if they come home frustrated from school? We discuss how to handle future conflicts. I learned that. I like that, Joy. Yeah. So by the way, the interaction you have with your child when they come from school, where apparently they've been learning, is a huge opportunity for you to teach something. So you ask open-ended questions like, how was your day at school? What was your favorite part of the day? How was lunch? What was the kindest thing somebody did for you today? Or the reverse. What is the kindest thing you did to someone today? Oh, I got to share a pencil. Or somebody was mean to me. Or my friend didn't have a snack. So you get a chance to teach them sharing, communicating, how to deal with bullies. So that interaction when the child comes in, and for those of us who are not at home when our children comes in, please train your house managers to be gentle with the child when they come from school. Because that first interaction as they walk in the door is very, very important. Some children are coming home hungry. They don't want to do their homework. Some of them come in and they hide their homework right away. Some of them get sick because they anticipate the bad day they had is not what they want to have the next day at school. So those little interactions are very important in the kids' learning journey. We're going to go to, let me just see. So exploring hobbies or interests. So break it into small chunks. If a child likes cooking, you can have them cook the simplest thing, maybe on the weekend, or they can do their breakfast. Let's not pack learning as we've known it traditionally, where it has to be a long session. There has to be notes. The child has to be patient. Now learning is different, and I'm going to talk about that a bit later. So for those who joined the community late, I hope you've had a chance to just explore those questions. And as we're going through this, think through what your child really enjoys and what you think is their best time to learn. Some kids are morning kids, others are evening kids, others like music, art, sports. How do you use technology? Reading books. Are you buying your child the books they're interested in? Are you trying to learn what your child is interested in? So the third question is, which of the following do you think most impacts your child's motivation to learn? So there's positive reinforcement and praise. There's supportive learning environment at home or at school. There's fun and interactive learning methods. There's encouragement from peers or mentors. So most of us have positive reinforcement and praise. And I'm so happy to see that, because I'm so big on, I feel like I grew up and every time you did something right, nobody said anything, but you wait till you make a mistake. You never had the end of it. I mean, that's when parents got a chance to tell you your future is ruined because of this thing and all that. So I feel like it's much better if we can positively reinforce a child. So if a child comes in and they actually take their shoes to the back or put them on the shoe rack, it's a simple thing, but your positive reinforcement goes a long way in teaching that child that they can do a small thing right, and it fosters other things. It's sort of like that chain reaction of how they're going to do other things in their life. But if a child comes in and you say, tena leo umesahau sweta yako, I'm tired of buying you sweaters, and that child immediately gets crushed. Meanwhile, you don't even know how the sweater got lost, and the child, their spirit dampens. And after that, they don't even, they're not in talking terms. They might even say, I don't want to eat, because they go into fear mode. So negative energy towards a child when they've done something wrong never really got positive results. So positive reinforcement. But honestly, all these things here are actually good, to motivate a child to learn. So being supportive, having an environment that is, friendly to the child. If it's a little child, like, a 0 to 2, have their toys in the corner. I know some of us are obsessed about having neat houses, but allow the child to have their toys and allow them to clean up. Yeah. And then the other one is making it fun and interactive. And this can happen even with technology. The games, playing physical games, playing hide and seek, and teaching them how to be patient in finding things. And then the encouragement from peers or mentors. And peers or mentors doesn't have to be at school. It can be the siblings at home. Mentors can be the house girl, can be an uncle, an auntie, and all of that. So I'm going to take a reaction on this one. If there's anything we haven't included in the poll, I'm really happy to see that 6 of us are in agreement around positive reinforcement and praise. But I'll just give a chance for someone to say something. You can also type it in the chat around what really motivates your child to learn. What motivates your child to learn? And maybe this is where we start to think about the 5 languages of love, words of affirmation. Some of them is gifts. So, and this could be stickers, could be, healthy candy, so even for some of us, what motivates you to learn? Because children are little, but they already have personalities. And sometimes the way you learn might be the way your child learns, or it might not be. So how do you discover how your child learns and what motivates your child? So let's have a reaction. Jacinta, Arike, Francis, karibu sana. Let's just have a reaction. You can type in the chat. Vio, I know you don't have kids, but you can say something. Rolin, what motivates your child to learn? What's your view around how do we motivate our children to learn?
Oh, I think you motivate them by praising them when they do well, and encouraging them to do better when they don't do so well. That you don't keep pressing them to work harder when they're actually trying.
Yeah, thank you, Rolene. And it speaks to also how well do we understand our child's capabilities. Recently we've been having a conversation about dyslexia, and I've gotten to understand more about dyslexia. I never used to understand what it was, and I was told it's a pendulum. And basically dyslexia is some children are visual. They learn by seeing. They can't read, but once you show them, then they know what you're talking about, and it's easier for them to learn. So Rolene, thank you so much for that. So there is praising them for what they're doing right, and encouraging them for what they're trying to do, and being patient. I don't know if you've experienced a 2-year-old who's trying to baton their shot, and literally you keep seeing them. They take the baton, they put it where there's no hole, they put it there, and they don't pull it through. And how many of us just basically sometimes we take the hands off and we do it for the child because we're running late? How about you give that child a minute or two and allow them, and then clap for them and say, yeah, you did it. I know some of us even have ended up buying shoes with Velcro because tying laces is quite a challenge. Yeah. But maybe sometimes we just need to be a little bit more patient. Yeah. And encourage our child. Tearing a child down on something they're trying to do and they're not able to will not encourage that child in the learning process. Neither will it work even for us as adults. So, and having lived, I'm almost 50, I know that anytime I was, I got some kind of validation, praise, any of that, I think I learned best in that environment than an environment where I was reprimanded. And I'm not saying that we don't push our children to be better, but let's not be so punitive on something even we know that we struggle to learn. But you're there saying, we will not repeat this with you. Kama mimi sikupita, wewe utapata A. Yeah? Maybe the child is an athlete. Maybe they're an artist or a musician and they're struggling in math. Yeah? So let's see how we can encourage kids to learn and motivate them to be better and the best version of themselves. Not a better version of us, but really the best of themselves. The next question is, do you feel your child's school offers enough opportunities to foster a love for learning outside of standard curriculum? And I want to ask Wilma, I'd like you to give us an example of your experience around, opportunities that foster a love for learning, and maybe you can just veer into how you worked with your child's school in making sure that your child's environment was best for them to learn. Wilma, I hope you don't mind.
Hi, Nora.
Hi.
I wasn't really prepared, but what I would say is we have to advocate for our children. I do have a neurodiverse child, so that was key in really advocating for the support they need at school. We ended up educating the educators themselves. The teachers were not aware. It was 5 years ago. And I got a lot of support from KISE, Kenya Institute of Special Education. They were gracious enough to train the teachers. The school was also very receptive. And now, 5 years down the line, we are the only school in our estate that admits children on the spectrum, even those who are nonverbal.
So that is something as a parent you have to advocate for it. Sometimes it's not that they don't want, but sometimes people are just not informed. So that was one thing that was so positive. The feedback I got was integrated was the best for my child. And that's what I had to tell the school, that we are not going to take the child to a special needs school. This is the recommendation from professionals. And I have no options. So are you on board? And we had that conversation going, and now I see so many children, and I'm happy because even the other kids are very much aware of what's happening in the society. Last April, we had a very big walk for Autism Awareness Day, and it's beautiful to watch. And these children are just a joy to be around. So you really have to, as a parent, advocate for your child. Sometimes the school just doesn't know. But if they're receptive and you find that support is there, it's a plus. So that was my experience. We are now 5 years in, we are doing well. The integration has worked well. You wouldn't even tell that the child is neurodiverse. The school is also having very many other children, and it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to see how they interact. When we go for functions at school, it's really beautiful to watch the special needs children. And I would say, that's why I'd say that I've gotten the support I need.
Wow, Wilma,
Thank you.
Thank you, Wilma. Thank you for sharing. When Wilma shared that story with me, I thought it was so powerful because I think a lot of us are not even aware. I mean, we're really just not aware that, our children's learning abilities are different. And for Wilma, it took some research. It took a lot of, push and pull with the school, but she actually approached a professional institution. I didn't even know it existed. And these guys worked with her in the school. And now as she watches her children learning, in an environment that has been made friendly for them, it's just beautiful to hear that story. And now other parents can bring their kids because there is special schools, but sometimes they're too expensive. Yeah. And all we need to do is to advocate for our children in the schools they're in. These teachers will tell you, mtoto wako ni mtundu, husky. Sometimes you even find the child has a hearing problem. I had, a relative of mine, they even used to beat the child. The child had a hearing problem. Come to find out it was actually genetic, and this child had to get hearing aids. By the time they discovered it was a bit late, and what they used to say, mtoto unamwongelesha, hata hakujibu, she doesn't react, she's very rude. And this is like 1, 2, 3-year-old. Yeah? So how much time are we willing to take to explore our children's learning abilities, what they, how they learn best, and interact with the teachers and say, look, this is what I'm experiencing at home, and maybe I'm yet to know what's happening with my child. Please work with me. Because one of the things I experience with teachers is sometimes they feel as parents, we just send the kids to them and they have to figure out. And I know there's some teachers here who have their personal stories around how they interact with children. And you find that as a parent, tunasema nini? We've paid school fees. In fact, we've paid so much. Please let that child come home educated. Yeah. But then how have we explored our child to see what's going on with them? Are they autistic and maybe they're just on do they have ADHD? Are they in that, neurodiverse, pendulum where maybe it's not something, like Wilma's kids? I could never tell that, that child is so smart. She's so sweet. But I think it's because of what Wilma did and worked with the school. And she's also doing the same at home because she had to work with each child, separately. So let's be those parents who advocate for our kids. Let's not be afraid. If you need to, please change the school because you don't want a damaged child when they're older because they were not handled with the care that they deserve to be handled with. So in view of time, I'll just move to the next question. How confident do you feel in your child's ability? Oh wait, I wanted to say what the responses were. So do you feel your child's school offers enough opportunities to foster a love for learning outside of standard curriculum. Yes, there are plenty of opportunities, 4 of us, some opportunities, but more could be done. And that's where as parents we come in. And then one person did say not much of opportunity outside of standard lessons. Yeah. So those were the responses, and they're pretty much, I just think, let's investigate what we can do. So I'll move on to the second last question. How confident do you feel in your child's ability to encourage your child's love for learning at home? Yeah. How confident as a parent do you feel you are in encouraging your child's love for learning at home? Or do we say, Mimi si mwalimu, you go to school, that's where you do all the learning? I'm happy to report that 4 are very confident, 5 are somewhat confident, and that's okay. Nobody's confident. That's good. Yeah, not confident, there's 2 of us. And the good thing with children, they don't judge us. In fact, I always feel like sometimes as parents, we're more judgmental to our kids. Sometimes we compare siblings. We say, why are you not number 1 like your sister? Your brother I was always number 1 and all that. But in terms of your confidence, there's a lot of learning you can do. You can ask other parents, how do you foster your child's learning at home? You can go on the internet, Pinterest, Google, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Just go and search. How do I help my child to learn better? Yeah. How do I discover how best, my child learns? And then I'll just move quickly to the last question, and then I'll allow for comments. What is the biggest challenge you face in encouraging your child's love for learning? There's finding time for learning outside school. There's ensuring learning is fun and engaging. There's balancing learning with other activities, sports, friends. And then the last one is difficulty in connecting with my child's interests. So, 5 of us said our challenge is ensuring learning is fun and engaging. 3 of us said finding time outside learning. Sometimes our kids are stuck in traffic. The weekends, some schools even have learning. And then there's also balancing learning with other activities. But I think the comfort here is your child is actually learning during those sports, even those friendship interactions, they're learning. And then one of us said they have difficulty in connecting with their child's interest. And this could be maybe the child is an introvert. And sometimes what I did, like with my kids when they were younger, there was these things of signing up in school. They're signing up for basketball, there's football, there's rugby, there's golf. And it was a bit expensive. There's dancing, there's karate, there's taekwondo, there's, kickboxing, all of these activities. What I did is I just told them every semester, just sign up for something different until you find something you like. I think by the time my son was in high school, my other kids were not so sporty. We have 2 basketballers, and then the girls are not so much big on sports. So sometimes it's just about exposing your child to many things. Go to the mall. There's art exhibitions. Go to the zoo and you discover that your child loves animals. Get them a pet if they want, and you get to understand what your child's interests are. So some of these challenges, honestly, we're all learning. And I think by and large, you might think you're supposed to know these things, but there's no such thing as everybody knowing. I just want to cover something that would basically unlock some of how we, help our kids learn. Something around traditional learning versus today's learning. So I'm just going to read through this. There's learning by subject, which was how traditionally we learned. And then there is learning by interests. Now we have more learning by interests than by subjects. And you'll see this even in schools. Even when you look at CBC, they're basically interesting children in activities rather than the subject. So the subject is almost a factor of whatever it is that the teacher is showing them. Then there was the teacher teaching the pupil, but now parents are learning with their children. CBC again. The teacher used to decide what the child should learn. Now the child kind of leads, what is their interest and all of that. That's how children are learning. Then we used to have the teacher had a curriculum. They had a very strict syllabus. And of course, a bit of that is still there. But now we're using the internet. We're using nature. We're using life experiences. We're having kids, learn in different ways, more experiential learning than before, less classroom. Then, learning was happening within set times. Now learning is happening all the time, all year round, everywhere and anywhere. And then the last one is the teacher used to set targets and test the child. Now the child is allowed to learn at their own time and in their own way and how they best learn. And then the very last slide before I finish, and we can just take just a few tips, basically what would help us foster learning for our kids and to love learning in and outside class. Encourage curiosity. Allow your children to ask questions. If you don't have answers, research with them. Tell them, that's a good question. Maybe we can go on the internet, or let's call uncle so-and-so. Let's call auntie so-and-so. Let me call my mom. Be okay with being vulnerable with your child that really, I don't know everything. Yeah, by the way, I used to think my parents knew everything. Then I got older and I discovered there is no such thing. So the other thing is make it fun. A game. Make it, like for little children, use tone variation and just different things. Have stars, exciting colors. Get them to learn in a fun way. Use puzzles, apps if they are crazy about computers. And then what we had said earlier about supporting the child's interest. So is your child interested in a sport, music, art? Give them those opportunities to explore, and by all means incorporate technology for research, for trying out things. There are children who tell you, I want to run a YouTube channel. Within, certain boundaries and guidance, allow the child to explore that. And then make real life experiences part of learning. So go for hikes, go to the zoo, cook, teach a child how to bake, how to make an egg, how to cook ugali. Age appropriate. And please do not forget to celebrate the small wins. The first time that child is able to button their shirt, clap loudly, tell them how well they've done, remind them how you admire how patient they were, and always focus not on the results, but on the journey. How the child, I admire how well you managed your time. I admire how patient you were. I admire that you were able to ask for help. Yeah. So appreciate the learning journey and not just waiting for the end result. So I'm going to close there and allow questions, reactions, feedback, basically anything you'd like for us as EmpowerWiz, both in and out of this session to cover, and maybe even share some of your learning experiences. So you could unmute and just speak, or you could put your hand up, whichever works for you, or you could type in the chat and we'll read it out. Questions, reactions, recommendations, learnings, anything.
Actually, with busy schedules, working home late and all that, sometimes we tend to maybe forget on such nitty-gritty things that can really help our children, And I think for me, I'd love to book a one-on-one session. That is why I was asking, it's how much is it? How much do you charge on a one-on-one session? Apart from the other group stuff that kids do together.
Or the one-on-one sessions are $2,500 a session. And then depending on the child's need, we can establish. We try to do a minimum of 6 sessions, but then we continually work with the child. We also maintain a database for all our kids. So we usually have a Google form for completing. So for the one-on-one sessions, it's $2,500 per session. So we'll work with you in terms of venue, topics, and usually, these sessions are just like therapy. Sometimes in those one-on-one sessions, I work with a team of counselors. So we've had to sometimes recommend children to go into counseling because of maybe what we pick during those sessions. So I also have a team of professionals that I collaborate with, and this could be on sports, music, and also in now mental wellness, in case that's an issue. So we also invite these people and introduce them to the parents to work with them. So that's a good question.
Thank you so much. And your contacts? I know I'm in the group, but I can call you and book.
Yes, you can call me, Stacy. Stacy, you can post my number in the group, but in case you're old school like me, Happiness, I like writing. It's 0700 30, which is 306350.
50.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good. Feel free to call me or WhatsApp me. Sometimes I'm in work meetings all day, so I'm very good on WhatsApp because I can multitask during a call. So do reach out and we'll work with your child. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right.
Any other feedback as we look to close? I know we started a bit late, so we can spend a few minutes on questions and reactions. And I hope you've all managed to, thank you, Stacy. You've all managed to join the community. We try to make it, tidy in terms of we only post kid-related stuff on the topic of the month. And that's what culminates into this. And that's to allow you to basically experience the content so that you even have reactions or questions by the time we're coming into this webinar. Do invite any of your friends to join the community. You can follow us on our socials. We are in most of these socials as Empower with Kenya. And we also cover these webinars on YouTube. So in case you have a friend who you'd like for them to listen in, you could just have them search us on YouTube and they can listen at their own time. Mercy, I'm waiting for you to say something. Francis, Elizabeth, I don't know if there's anything, Karibu Sana Wilma, there's anything that has been posted in the chat. Maybe we can just have a look. Karibu, so that's my... Okay, Joy had a question. How to manage their emotions, especially if they come home frustrated from school. We discussed how to handle future conflicts. Oh, that was a good comment. Yeah, because you can understand what causes frustration by the child explaining what exactly happened in school. And that way you're able to help them in how to handle conflicts with at school, with peers, or even at home, even playing outside or even at church. Any other reactions? Just to give you some comfort, we're all parents here. No one has all the questions. And today's topic is learning. We're learning every day. None of us, has the manual. I used to joke that I wish every child came with a manual so that we knew exactly what to do. I think the closest I got was when we had our children, I would look for names. There was a name book. Back in the day, there was no internet. So there were names and we got to choose the names. But the rest we've had to figure out, and we're still trying to figure out as our children are growing, we're also learning and we're growing with them. So do not be afraid to seek help. Seek help from peers, friends, relatives, on the internet. Seek help. Don't walk the parenting journey alone. And that's what we try to do at Empower is through this conversation. And you're free to also call me separately to discuss any challenges you might be having with your children. I'm happy to see most of the parents of the children that I currently work with. I'm really happy to see them on this conversation because we handle different topics and we just delve into what the child's struggles are. But it's really nice watching a child grow and become a better version of themselves. That's what Empowerwiz is about. Any other comments, reactions before we close? Damaris, do you have anything to say? You're a mother of 3. What has been your experience in terms of learning? Even sometimes the differences in how our different children learn is quite interesting. That, you'll have, every child has their own way of doing things. Yeah? Or morning people, evening people, night owls. Any reactions, Francis? Okay.
Hi, Nora.
Hi, Francis. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Karibu sana.
I'm listening from I'm blessed with music, so I didn't want to really interrupt your session.
Okay.
I've been listening. I will not be able to comment so much, but I've been listening, following the conversation. I like the aspect around the bonding and also learning the strengths and weaknesses of a child and encouraging. Yeah, I like that aspect, and for me it applies a lot. So I'm not chalk mark because I'm in a noisy place in a restaurant. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for clarifying. It's a restaurant, not a bar. Or maybe one side is the restaurant and then there's the bar on the other side. It's Thirsty Thursday, so you're allowed. Okay, so I guess we'll just do a little exercise if you can all access the chat. Maybe just one thing, your takeaway from this session. And this usually helps us in terms of just getting how you feel, reactions, a topic you'd like covered. You can either say it, but if you can post it in the group, that would also be helpful. As we close, it's 7:36. We had said we do 10 more minutes. So we can spend a minute or two and just post in the group, what your key learning is, what you'll do differently, or what a topic you'd like us to cover. Stacey, you can just watch the chat, or you could even post you could say it or you could post it in the group, whichever works for you. I don't mind direct messages too. You have my number. You can also send a direct message. Okay, so as we post our reactions, questions, feedback, and anything that we'd like to say, I really want to say a big thank you to all of you. We, as the Empowerwiz team, work with children, and our passion is giving children a voice. It's so much fun working with kids, and I realize that the parents are basically, I would think, the most important stakeholders, the parents or guardians, the most important stakeholders when it comes to children. Let's all be ambassadors for all children. Sometimes we can advocate even for children who are not ours through the things that we do. Yeah. So I hope that these conversations grow us as parents, allow us to interact with other parents, and allow us to learn, which is the topic of the day. So as we leave, this evening, let's find those small moments where our children can learn. Yes, I do work with young adults. I have some kids I've worked with through the years, and they're currently in college. So we work with them on career guidance, navigating relationships in college, just different things. So I do work with young adults too. So my Empowerwiz kids range from 0 all the way to, I think my oldest is almost 30. Yeah. So I don't have any restrictions in terms of who I work with. And honestly, I've had to work with the adults too in my learning journey. Like I said, professionally, I'm a banker. So I'm exploring, taking some courses around just understanding kids' psychology better. And these conversations really help me to learn. So I'm here to also learn from you. So thank you so much for your support. Have yourselves a great Thursday evening and a happy Friday and a great weekend ahead. Thank you very much. Asante mas.